Mailbag time here on Falcons Today. Matthew Peterson answering questions during our live show, which aired Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. So tune in next Thursday if you have a question you want to ask. But I'm going to react and answer the questions you guys have for me today. So without further ado, let's jump into our first question coming in from Soldier First Class via Super Chat. Honestly, sign Russ to a vet minimum. Broncos eat his contract. We save a lot of money in case Russ is a flop. If Atlanta does end up signing Russell Wilson, I think a lot of other things fell through. They were higher up on their plan A, plan B, plan C list, and I hope it is only for a vet minimum because whatever Russell Wilson makes from his next team, if/when he is released by Denver, that new salary is subtracted from what the Broncos owe him. So it would probably be in Russell Wilson's best interest to take a vet minimum deal so his next team has more money to spend on other players in the free agency. And it doesn't help out the Broncos by saving them a couple $1 million because he took a big contract or big-ish from his next team. Rusty Moore, trade for Fields and draft Odunze at number 8. No reason not to score 30 points per game. I don't think we're going to get everyone on the same page as to whether or not it is a good idea to pursue Justin Fields. I like the idea of trading for Justin Fields if I'm Atlanta. I think Justin Fields is a really good quarterback. I think he has great accuracy down the field, excellent velocity on his passes, and I haven't even gotten to his running ability. His biggest knocks are the turnovers and holding on to the ball too long. I think with better coaching, holding on to the ball too long can go down. And turnovers, a lot of that's a product of holding on to the ball for too long. So if you just reduce one issue, a lot of the other problems are going to go down as well for JF1. Trey Dukes, and right on cue, no to Justin Fields, not paying $45 million a year for a guy who has yet to string together any amount of consistency. If you don't like Justin Fields because you haven't seen enough consistency from him, I'm not going to argue with you on that front. That has been a problem. But if you don't want to get Justin Fields because you don't want to be the team that pays him, I disagree with that. You don't have to pay him $45 million. No one's holding a gun to your head. He's got one more year left on his rookie contract, and then there's the fifth-year option, which is a little over $20 million. And if Atlanta does trade for Fields, they likely will pick that up. And if it doesn't work out, worst case scenario, 2025, you've got a quarterback with $20-ish million guaranteed that you might have to move on from. And if you do have a great career or a great immediate success with Fields and you do decide to extend him, awesome. You've got a great quarterback. Who cares how much it costs? You think Chiefs fans or Bills fans complain about how much Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes are making? No, they are happy to have a franchise QB. Every team is searching for one, and it's not easy to find. So the least problem Falcons fans should be worrying about is we might get Fields and have him play so well that we pay him $45 million. Is that really the biggest problem you have going on? Not a problem in my eyes. Let's go, Falcons. What do you think about trading AJ Terrell to move up in the draft? Interesting idea, because I do think AJ Terrell is sort of right on that line of an untouchable player, but also could be available for the right price. And if AJ Terrell is standing in the way of Atlanta pulling off a trade to go from 8 to 1, from 8 to 2, to get the franchise of their future, or get the quarterback of their future, I probably pull the trigger on the trade, to be honest with you guys. I like AJ Terrell. You can look at his stats over the last 4 years. I think he's a really good corner. I think he's going to get a nice contract extension. I don't think AJ Terrell is a top 5 cornerback in this league. I think he is between 8 and 12. I think he's right there as a top 10 or just outside top 10 cornerback. And if ultimately AJ Terrell is what's holding up a trade to go through to go get Caleb Williams or Drake May or Jaden Daniels, obviously I'd have to know what the other trade compensation being included is, but I could make peace with moving on from AJ Terrell to get the next QB of the future. Now let me know, would you trade Terrell to move up? I like AJ Terrell. I think he's a good corner. I do think he is a piece that you could stomach moving on from if that means you get the superstar QB you have been searching for since you moved on from Matt Ryan. But give me your opinion down below in the comment section. Gray plays. What do you think about Raheem Morris? I think Raheem Morris is a good coach. I think he was a great candidate. I think he was worthy and deserving and earned a second opportunity to be an NFL head coach. Everyone says great things about him. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in Atlanta. I also think there were better options out there, and I know that's where people get really mad and throw tomatoes at the screen. But yeah, I'll say that I think Mike Vrabel or Bill Belichick or Ben Johnson would have been a better hire. Now, I don't know if we'll ever know how close they ever were to hiring one of those guys. They never really went all that far with Ben Johnson, just one interview. But I can rally around Raheem Morris. I can be upbeat and be optimistic about it. But I don't think this is a surefire home run hire. No question about it. Great Plays, appreciate your question. Oh, another one from Great Plays. What do you think the Falcons doing with Ritter? I think he's going to stay and be the backup. Atlanta learned this year, a lot of teams, every team should have learned this past season, that about half of the starting quarterbacks are going to go down with an injury at some point. It's a coin flip, whether it's you or the team next to you. It was not really the Falcons last season. Like, Ritter didn't get hurt. They just benched him. They would be wise to hold on to Desmond Ritter as a backup because it's so important to have a good backup. Like, if you're ranking all 53 players on your roster, power ranking them, backup QB should not be one of the last 5. It should be, in my opinion, between 30 and 35. You want your 22 starters to be better than your backup QB, but it's not too much after that. You get your backup quarterback. And I think Ritter can be a very serviceable backup QB for the Falcons while he's still on a cheap rookie contract for the next 2 seasons. Taylor, we ain't no Panthers. Go balls deep and trade up for Daniels if he drops. If not, I would take Justin Fields or Russell Wilson. I think number 1 is going to be Caleb Williams to Chicago. I think number 2 will be Drake May to the Commanders. I think Jaden Daniels goes number 3, but what if Gerard Mayo and the Patriots brass come out of their hibernation of doing all the film and research on Jaden Daniels and decide we don't like him? He's their Bo Callahan. We did our research. We have issues. We don't want to go with him at number 3. It's too valuable of a pick to just, on a whim, go quarterback. And so maybe in that scenario, they're open to trading back, or they go Marvin Harrison at number 3, and Atlanta picks up the phone, and they call the Cardinals. They call the Chargers, the Giants, all teams that have quarterbacks under big contracts, and try and jump up a couple of spots and get Jaden Daniels. But again, all of that is completely hanging on by a thread of the Patriots don't like Jaden Daniels. And I don't know if that's the case. Before we get on to the rest of the questions on today's mailbag, I do want to share with you guys a great deal going on at Prize Picks, our wonderful sponsor today. But first, let me explain Prize Picks to you. The way Prize Picks works, it is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 6 players. Easy. Choose more or less on their projected stats. Easier. And then, well, you land at this spot here, where you're taking the more on Patrick Mahomes' passing yards at 0.5, or the more on Isaiah Pacheco at 0.5 rushing and receiving touchdowns combined. I like the more on both of these bad boys here, especially the Mahomes one. I've got a pretty good feeling about him throwing for a couple of yards. And then I like the more on Brock Purdy at 248.5 passing yards. So if all 3 of these bad boys sit here, I'm rolling in some dough. So if you like my selections, come ride with me. PrizePicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put that link in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Jay, next one up on the show. I trust Zack Robinson, so whoever he puts at QB, I will be happy with. Look at this man's track record at QBs. Let's all chill and trust the OC. Track record. He's only coached one team, the Rams. What track record are we talking about? I'm not saying that Zack Robinson can't be a good offensive coordinator, but I don't think this is the argument to make for he's going to get the best out of any quarterback. Like, maybe he's the next Bobby Slowick, right, who was somewhat of an under-the-radar hire by the Texans and did a phenomenal job with C.J. Stroud. But I do have a little bit of a concern of Raheem Morris, first time being a head coach in well over a decade in terms of, like, building a staff like he did in Tampa Bay, okay? You got a first-time DC and Jimmy Lakes, the NFL level. You got a first-time OC. There's a lot of firsts going on in Atlanta. I think I would have preferred some extra experience. That's all. Slim Reaper. We got to get a pass rusher. Yeah, Bud Dupree is a free agent, but Arnold Ebiketie is coming back, still on his rookie deal. Zack Harrison hopefully takes a big leap in his sophomore season. But I do agree that the Falcons do need to add some more pass rushers. And this is a good year to be in the hunt for pass rushers because you've got guys like Josh Allen from Jacksonville, Brian Burns, Daniil Hunter, some really good edge rushers about to hit the market, all under the age of 30. Falcons prods, what's going on, dude? No hate, but I'd rather draft Penix at number 8 than Malik Neighbors, or at least trade back and take Penix because I honestly don't think we leave the first round without a QB. It's really tough to say before free agency what the Falcons do in round 1 because if they go with Justin Fields, they sign Kirk Cousins, like that obviously impacts their decision for round 1. I don't think you should go Malik. I don't think you should go Michael Penix at number 8. If you really love Michael Penix, maybe trade back, right? But I think Michael Penix is more of a round 2 quarterback. And the Falcons have a pretty early round 2 pick. And we saw last year they traded up to get Matthew Bergeron. Last year the Tennessee Titans traded up to get Will Levis. I like that plan more for Michael Penix if I'm Atlanta. Ben, what's going on? Draft edge rusher at 8. Then sign an edge in free agency. Then trade back in the first and draft McCarthy. Well, Ben, it doesn't really add up because you're drafting edge rusher at 8. So you can't trade back again if you took an edge like Dallas Turner at number 8. But I'm not opposed to like double dipping at edge rusher. If you want to go Dallas Turner and Josh Allen, like really unleash hell on Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield and Bryce Young, I'm not going to be opposed to that all that much. But I don't think you can do all of those things right there. As for J.J. McCarthy, I'm going to watch him very closely at the Combine. How does he perform when he's asked to make deep throws down the field with accuracy? We didn't see a whole lot of that at Michigan. I'm excited to see that as the offseason and the pre-draft process progresses. ATL Fan 52. Any chance of a Justin Jefferson trade if the Vikings don't want to pay him? Very interesting. I have heard some very low-level chatter that the Vikings may entertain a trade of Jefferson because they feel they're heading towards a rebuild, and it doesn't really line up to make Justin Jefferson the highest-paid wide receiver in NFL history and then proceed to suck. So if they could get an absolute king's ransom for him, maybe they would at least pick up the phone and discuss it. I think it goes without saying, Justin Jefferson's a phenomenal wide receiver. Like, you can look at his stats. I don't need to convince you that Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion. Like, you could argue with him about Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase, but if I'm picking a wide receiver for the next 4 or 5 seasons, I'm going with Justin Jefferson, and it would cost you a lot. Like, we're talking at least 2 first-rounders. So let me know. Would you trade 2 first-rounders for Justin Jefferson? I think that's where the conversation would have to start. You'd probably have to toss in more. Like, if they trade just a first for Jefferson, they're not making anything out of it. They're getting the first-round pick they used on Jefferson back. They want more, and they deserve more. And I think it might cost more than just 1 extra first-rounder, right? The Chiefs got a whole bunch for Tyreek Hill in terms of, like, 2nd and 3rd-round picks, Devontae Adams. Like, I think for the age of Justin Jefferson, it might be 2 firsts and a 2nd. And that's steep, but it's a surefire thing. If that really was all it took, I would do it. Slim Reaper with a $5 super chat. In free agency, we should pursue Brian Burns after Charles Johnson signing years ago. I'm scared to sign former Panthers edge rushers. Oh, should we pursue him? I'm not the biggest Brian Burns truther out there. I always thought it was a little bit odd back like 2 years ago when the Rams were really interested in Brian Burns and Carolina turned down like 2 firsts, like 2 seconds. I'm like, guy's good. Is he some defensive player of the year candidate that I don't know about? Because I'm not the biggest Brian Burns like fan in terms of he's the next surefire thing. I think he's a really good pass rusher. I do. I don't know if he's worth what people were giving up in trade offers for him or what some teams might be willing to pay for him. I don't want to be the team that I think gives Brian Burns the biggest contract in free agency history for a defensive end. I'd probably let someone else take that gamble. Red Stallions Forever. What's the most you are willing to give up for Fields? For me, I think it's 2 seconds or a second and a third, depending on the Ridley trade. If Calvin Ridley re-signs with the Jags, like Red Stallions mentions, Atlanta would have that trade escalate from a third rounder to a second rounder. So in that scenario, the most I would be willing to give up would be 2 second rounders. So I could give up a 2024 and a 2025 second round pick, or a 2024 and a 2025 third rounder. Like, I don't want to give up a first, but 2 seconds or a second and a third, some of that type of combination, I can get behind. Now, that's going to do it for us on today's mailbag. Thank you so much for tuning in. I always appreciate those of you that take time out of your day to come hang out with us here at Falcons Today. We will sign off, and we will see you all later.